Good morning, Year 5, and we're going to be carrying on today with equivalent fractions again. But this time, we're going to be looking at finding an equivalent fraction by reducing it. So yesterday, I taught you the rule that whatever you do to the top, you must do to the bottom. And to find an equivalent fraction, you can multiply or divide the fraction by the same number. Both ways will give you an equivalent fraction. But today we're going to be looking at reducing a fraction, so using division to find an equivalent fraction. Okay, so now we're going to watch this video, which is going to explain how to reduce a fraction, find an equivalent fraction by dividing instead of multiplying.
Last time, we multiplied both the numerator and denominator by a single value to get an equivalent fraction. I asked you to note down that the only way to make an equivalent fraction is to multiply or divide, and whatever we do to the top, we've got to do to the bottom. So, no adding or subtracting, okay? Never ever. Only multiplying or dividing leads to a correct answer in equivalent fractions. Okay, by now you should have done some exercises making equivalent fractions. If you got them right, then you're ready for the next step. We know that the opposite of multiplication is division. Let's examine that with this fraction. 3 times 2 is 6, and 4 times 2 is 8. There's my new equivalent fraction. Now, 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. Using the inverse operation gets us back to our original fraction. That's why we can also use division to make an equivalent fraction. We're not changing the value of the fraction, we're just changing its scale. We use multiplication to scale the fraction up so the values look bigger. We use division to scale the fraction down, making the values look smaller. That's why it's called reducing a fraction, because we're making it look smaller. Let's do one. 8 over 14. The key to success in reducing a fraction is we've got to pick a number that divides perfectly. No remainders allowed. These numbers are both even, so I can divide by 2. How many 2's in 8? 4 2's are 8. And how many 2's in 14? 7 2's are 14. Remember, whatever we do to the top, we've got to do to the bottom. And no remainders allowed. So in this next example, I could divide by 2 because these are even numbers. How many 2's in 6? 3 2's are 6. Over how many 2's in 18? 9 2's are 18. 3 over 9. Both those numbers are in the 3 times table. So I can reduce again using a factor of 3. There's 1 3 in 3 and 3 3's in 9. 1/3. I can't reduce this anymore. When you can't divide a fraction anymore, that's called reducing a fraction to its lowest terms. Now, I could also have taken our 6 over 18 and divided by 3 because both those numbers are in the 3 times table. 3's into 6, 2 3's are 6. 3's into 18, 6 3's are 18, 2 over 6. These are both even numbers. I can divide by 2. 1 2 is 2 and 3 2's are 6, 1/3. Or I could have divided by 6 to start with, because they're both in the 6 times table. 6 divided by 6 is 1, 18 divided by 6, 3 6's are 18, 1/3 again. You can reduce a fraction in more than one step till it won't reduce anymore, or you might be able to get there in just one shot. However you reduce it, the final answer in its lowest terms will be the same. Please make a note of this in your math journal so it makes sense to you. I want you to get this because you're going to need it all the time in fractions problems.
So I think two very key important messages from that video are the rule that we learnt yesterday. So the only way to make equivalent fractions is to multiply or divide, and whatever you do to the number, the numerator, which is the top, you've got to do to the denominator, which is the bottom. And then also, key to reducing a fraction is we have to pick a number that divides perfectly. No remainders allowed. Okay, so if we take 9/18 and we want to reduce it to find an equivalent fraction, we've got to have a think about what we know about 9/18. What number do we know that will go into 9 and 18? Okay, and we know that both numbers are in the 3 times table. So we can divide 9 by 3, which gives us 3, and we can divide 18 by 3, which gives us 6. So now we've got 3 over 6, okay? And we can still reduce it even further. We can have a think about what do we know about 3 and 6, and we know that both of those numbers are in the 3 times table again, so we can divide 3 by 3, which gives us 1, and 6 by 3, which gives us 2, which gives us the equivalent fraction of 1/2. So we know 9/18 is also equivalent to 1/2. We could have also divided the number by 9, because we know that 9 and 18 are both in the 9 times table. So if we divide 9 by 9, we get 1, and 18 by 9, we get 2, and we get 1/2. So however you reduce it, you will still get the fraction in its lowest term. Okay, we've just got to pick a number that divides perfectly with our fraction. Okay, now it's your turn. I'd like you to reduce the fraction on the board. Okay, so we've got to pick a number that divides perfectly because there can be no remainders allowed. So what numbers do you know that both 8 and 16 are in its times table? Okay, so pause the video there and have a go at that question. So if we have a look at 8 and 16, we could use 2 because both 8 and 16 are in the 2 times table. They're even numbers. We could divide 8 by 2 and 16 by 2, which would give us 4 over 8, or 4/8. And if we want to keep going, we would then have a look and see what 4 and 8 could be divided by. Remember, same number. And we could use 4. So 4 divided by 4 would give us 1, and then 8 divided by 4 would give us 2, so 1/2. Okay, so you might have seen that you could have also divided 8 and 16 by 8, because both 8 and 16 are in the 8 times table. So 8 divided by 8 would be 1, and 16 divided by 8 would be 2. So you've got 1/2. So you can see both ways that we divided the number to reduce the fraction, we got to 8/16 at its lowest term, which was 1/2. Right, so your work for today, you have got to look at the fraction and you've got to reduce the fraction to its lowest term. So you'll find an equivalent fraction, but this time you are using division. You are dividing down to find the fraction at its lowest term. Okay, so if we take 6/8, we've got to find a number that will divide into 6 and 8 without leaving any remainders. So I would always start off and think, is it an even number? Because if it's an even number, I can divide it by 2. Okay, I've put the multiplication grid over here to support you with your learning for today. Okay. These word problems are about finding equivalent fractions, whether you're multiplying or dividing. So it's putting everything you've learned over the past couple of days into practice. Okay, good luck with your work. I know it was a slightly shorter video today. There won't be any videos tomorrow because tomorrow we will be recapping our place value knowledge from carrying on from what we looked at before half term. Okay, Thank you very much.